Goodbyes are hard. At times, they're cordial. At others, hostile. A team in a town taken back to the top by a man that had once become one of their own. That was before things began to go south. And before their former leader traveled down south. And now they meet again. The return of someone that gave everything. One who's gearing up to chase everything again. This rivalry may run deep, but the return to Lambeau is deeper.
First, it was the Ice Bowl. Then came the battles of the 1990s and, of course, the Des Cottet game. But today, a new chapter between the Dallas Cowboys and the Green Bay Packers is here because today at Lambeau Field, it hosts the return of Mike McCarthy, former head coach of the Packers, finally playing his former team for the first time, a matchup 5 years in the making. And we're here to break it down for you on Cowboys Pregame Live, presented by WinStar World Casino and Resorts. Alongside Barry Church, Isaiah Stanback, Nate Newton, a trio of former Cowboys. I'm Kyle Yeomans. Glad you're with us. It's the Cowboys at 6-2, coming off of a bye week, going up against a Green Bay Packers team that's at 3-6 and have really struggled throughout the first 9 weeks of the season. Week 10 is here, but Cowboys, Packers, it's got that rivalry feel to it. It's got that historic feel to it. But why is this one a little bit different?
I'll tell you what, it's a little bit different because, look, Mike McCarthy, like you just said, is going back to Green Bay. And usually I would say, look, they get a win, they're just 7-2. But with the history McCarthy has in Green Bay, leading them to a Super Bowl, 13 seasons there, the way it ended, this team is going up there to get a victory, and I promise you it's going to mean a heck of a lot to both McCarthy and his current players.
I totally agree with you, Barry, but also let's go ahead and throw in the mix that one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time is not playing much like that. He doesn't have a huge committee around him. The guys are frustrated. They're not on the same page, and this defense of the Dallas Cowboys is playing lights out. So that combination right there, thrown in there with the Mike McCarthy mix, oh yeah, it's going to be fire.
You know what, fellas? I've been released. And it's another word for being fired. Coach, go get yours, man. Go get yours today.
He had 13 seasons with the Green Bay Packers prior to his firing. Now, with that being said, this team wants to win for Mike McCarthy. What is the response this week out of the locker room and the way that they've really galvanized behind their guy, talked to and shown about the culture that Mike McCarthy has built here in Dallas?
Well, I think he's done an amazing job with this team so far as he has been the head coach. I mean, he's turned this team around. And we all talked about it back in the day. They couldn't start fast. They were never ready for games. They were never up to the challenge. He's slowly but surely erased all that. He's made this team a much more disciplined team. And look, they were gone without their QB1 for the first 5 weeks, or for the first from second to the 6th week. And they still were able to play at an extremely high level. He's turned this team around with the culture and on the field. I'm excited about what McCarthy's doing with the squad.
McCarthy's done a heck of a job. You just alluded to some of the things that he's had to overcome. You think about he had to overcome COVID, the COVID season that we went through. He had to overcome the big Dak injury. All of a sudden this year, he had to get the good start with Cooper Rush, a backup quarterback, and still sustain this team. Still, galvanize, like Kyle said, bring these guys together. And now all of a sudden they're in a position where they are in very similar position than they were last year. But the question is, what are they going to do going forward? So this game is going to help these guys leapfrog to doing something major this year.
Quarterback gone, wide receiver gone, switch of the offensive line. This man, next man up, this guy stayed consistent in what he's been preaching. Do your job and play ball hard.
And he's built a depth to this Cowboys roster that has allowed them to be successful, even with some of those core members missing some games throughout this 2022 season. But he said it's an emotional week, of course, going back to where things really started for him as an NFL head coach. But that's not what's on his mind. What's on his mind is getting a win.
You have to get ready to go win. And, that's really where my mind is as far as the game. I mean, obviously, I have great memories about Green Bay, and obviously spent a lot of time there. But I'm 4 years removed from working there, and I'm really looking forward to taking our team up there. And like I told them today in a team meeting that this is a really cool place to compete. So it's obviously, a lot like AT&T Stadium. I mean, we have an unbelievable stadium that people enjoy coming to compete at, and it's very similar up there. Obviously the history and tradition of Green Bay and Lambeau Field, and it's an experience that I want them to maximize, but most importantly, we're going up here to win the game.
Snyder Dixon with the AP. Have you been looking forward to this week, dreading it, both, neither?
It's here. I think it's more like that. I think it's. I mean, we're in such a when I had obviously had to think about it today because I was coming into this wonderful session, but no, I just this is more about your family and your friends. People say, "Hey, when you coming in?" Like I'm going to fly in Wednesday for the weekend. I mean, it's we're going to get there Saturday at 5 o'clock like we always do. And so that part doesn't change for me personally. But I think this is more about your family and friends.
Green Bay wasn't just a place you coached; it's very much where you lived. And Jessica, a special place for her, for your kids. What about the area do you and as a family, as a unit?
This is you guys trying to make me cry.
What is it individually?
Why don't you ask me a question about 12 personnel or something? He said, what the cry.
So just how special was Mike McCarthy's run in Green Bay? It all started back in 1999 when he was hired to coach some quarterback going by the name of Brett Favre. His success as an assistant led to his first head coaching opportunity in 2006, and it only took a year for the Packers to return to a conference title game and begin a historic run. A huge part of that run was the decision in 2008 to stick with Aaron Rodgers at quarterback. That led to another tight playoff loss in 2009, but then winning it all in 2010, still the only Super Bowl for both McCarthy and Aaron Rodgers. 2011 brought some more success with a 15-1 record, and Rodgers his first of 4 MVP awards, but that success continued until 2019 when the season was derailed due to an injury, and McCarthy's tenure wasn't far behind. Fired after a 4-7-1 start, but Mike McCarthy, when you look back at his time in Green Bay, he was one of the best to ever coach at Lambeau Field. Right up there at the top of the list in plenty of categories against some of the other best coaches in the history of the game of football. And speaking of Lambeau Field, let's go back out to Lambeau Field for the first time. And live joining us on the sideline is Nick Eatman of DallasCowboys.com. Nick, it's an interesting atmosphere to say the least, to have a guy that won a Super Bowl in Green Bay, return to Green Bay for the first time. What's it feel like at the moment?
Well, it definitely feels like a lot of Cowboy fans are here, and that's typically what happens early in the game. Before a game, a lot of Cowboy fans, a lot of visiting fans are here, and they're pumped up. They're ready. The Cowboys obviously are hot. The Packers are in the other direction right now. So, it just kind of feels like something big is going to happen today. I think, the Packers haven't been here for a while, so for them it's kind of a homecoming of sorts for them. But, I kind of experienced this, to me, back almost, 20-something years ago in my first year, 1999, that you were mentioning, McCarthy. Jimmy Johnson came back to coach with the Dolphins against the Cowboys on Thanksgiving. That was kind of weird. He had just earlier that decade had won some Super Bowls. So, it happens. I think, you get past it early in the game, and then after that it's football.
How much will the weather play an impact in this one? Of course, 32 degrees right at kickoff. It's a little bit overcast, cloudy. This is the coldest that the Cowboys have had to be in a game early this season. How does that change things?
Well, I think it comes down to running the football, and that's typically what travels in cold air like this. Defense, I would think, travels as well. Passing game is going to be a little tough. It's just harder to catch the ball. Now, obviously, Aaron Rodgers has experienced it over the years, of course, but have the receivers. And that's something I think the connection that they've been dealing with. All week, Mike McCarthy's been talking about, I wouldn't say mind games, but he's trying to get it in his head of his players of, make sure they wear the right cleats for this grass. And also, he went out and looked and found out that there are more players from the Northeast and from the North Big Ten football than the Packers have on their roster. So what he's trying to tell them is you're used to this, you've played in this, don't worry about it. We're built for this type of football.
I know, of course, with it being the return of Mike McCarthy, there's not going to be an overlooking of the Packers, but could you expect maybe a little bit of overhype to play this game and maybe trying to play outside of themselves?
I don't think so, and the big reason for that is coming off a bye week. Typically when you get to this point, you run out of things to talk about because you haven't played a game. Fortunately, or unfortunately, depends on your perspective, there have been a lot of storylines leading up to this game. One of them being the coach returning to Lambeau, another one being a wide receiver that is a free agent that everyone seems to want. So those things have kind of fueled this team. But you got to remember, the Cowboys haven't played football for a couple of weeks now. I don't think they're going to be overlooking anything, overhyping anything. I think they're just out here ready to play.
Nick Eatman joining us from the sideline at Lambeau Field. Thanks so much for taking some time, and we'll check back in with you later on in the show. So there goes Nick Eatman back here with Nate Newton, the 6-time Pro Bowler and 3-time Super Bowl champ. I'm Kyle Yeomans. Now, Nate, this is an inactive list that the Cowboys don't necessarily love because you're coming off of a bye week. However, there's some big names that are unavailable for the Cowboys today, and it starts right there at the top with Ezekiel Elliott and Anthony Barr. 2 starters, one on both sides of the football, unavailable for the Cowboys. Now, compared to the Green Bay injury report, it's a little bit clean. But at the same time, those are 2 big missing pieces. So let's start with Ezekiel Elliott out for the 2nd straight game. How will this offense need to adjust, especially in that cold weather?
I just think, you do what you did last week. You run the ball, you spare Tony Pollard with Malik Davis and let this kid run a little bit more, let him bang up in there. But you keep it basically the same, And then Dak is our factor, our X factor to get out there. He can move around a little bit.
Does it limit Dak having a little bit less of somebody to rely on in terms of running the football?
Oh, no. No, Tony Pollard is a man. He does what he has to do. Malik has shown to be reliable. And then, and you know what? There's a guy named Turpin. You know what? Just get a quick slants to him or something coming out of the backfield with him. He'll change it around.
Oh, so you want to utilize Kevontae Turpin a little bit in that?
Yes, I'm begging for this kid, but we don't need to go there yet. We don't need to go there yet.
We can talk about it a little bit later on. Tony Pollard coming off of a game with 130 yards and 3 touchdowns against the Chicago Bears. He averages 63.3 yards per game. So does Ezekiel Elliott through the first 10 weeks of the season. Now, Anthony Barr also unavailable, going up against his former rival. Of course, he played in the NFC North with the Minnesota Vikings for many years. So how does this change the depth chart at linebacker, and how will the Cowboys defense need to fill his shoes?
You're going to have a young guy, an experienced guy, Damone Clark. You may want to put Parsons back there just to give him a different look, just to make him worry. But Damone Clark should be the next guy stepping up. He played a little bit last week, and from what I understand, this kid came out of college. He could have been a 1st or 2nd round pick. So he's a beast. He just needs to learn and learn quickly.
He played 40 snaps in his professional debut in the last game against Chicago. You mentioned Micah Parsons. If you put him back at the 2nd level, is that limiting what he could do in his versatility?
Nah, because he can rush from anywhere. He can get to the ball anywhere. And what we need to do for him anyway is get him back to being that run defender we saw as a rookie, man. Make some big hits from coming from back there, just coming downhill, meeting Jones in the backfield.
Hey, that should be a lot of fun to watch. And one of the other guys that are going to be heavily relied on by that Cowboys defense to stop the run and to provide some pass rush is DeMarcus Lawrence. He's been so good throughout the first 9 weeks of the season. Now heading into week 10, he knows there's an opportunity here to make a statement. Even with Aaron Rodgers struggling the way he is, there are certain ways you have to slow down big AR-12 in the backfield.
Oh, man. Your fundamentals got to be on point. Your details, communication with your defense have to be on point. But one thing I think is special about Aaron Rodgers and what he does is he actually, plays the game of football to what you're doing. So if we're, situational change and, bringing somebody off the field, now he's back on the ball because he don't want us changing personnel. So I feel like that's his biggest thing is he already got a play in his back pocket and he can, get his guys on the ball fast.
That said, how much can you guys grow from getting an experience midseason like that, going up against that?
You say how much we will?
How much can this defense grow and kind of continue to develop, getting to go up against a challenge like that?
Oh, yeah, man. It's a great opportunity for us. coming out the bye week, making sure all our details and our communication is, to a heightened level. That's what we need right now. So, being able to go up to Green Bay, a tough environment, different environment, it'll be good.
Dallas has one of the best pass rushes in the entire NFL, 33 sacks to this point, and they lead the NFL in sacks per attempt. Back here with Nate Newton and Isaiah Stanback. Now, overall, when you look at this matchup between the front seven of the Dallas Cowboys and the way that they match up with this Green Bay offense that has allowed 18 sacks this season, Isaiah, where is the mismatch from that front seven against the front five of Green Bay?
All over the place. Absolutely everywhere, Kyle. And the reason why I say that is because this offensive line for the Green Bay Packers have given up pressures, sacks, or hurries on 22% of the passes attempted this year. That means that these guys are all around struggling anytime they drop back. And to couple that, Aaron Rodgers has one of the fastest releases from the time that he snaps the ball to the time he gets it out of his hands at 2.2 seconds. So there's not a lot of time back there to actually get to him. And if you're getting back to him a quarter of the time, then obviously these guys are having issues. This defense on the front for the Dallas Cowboys, we know they come in waves. There's up to 3 different waves that these guys come at. And you couple that with the linebackers that they have in there, they should cause some problems for Aaron.
I agree with you 100%. But more importantly, if they want to have a chance, I'm talking about Green Bay's up and line, they got to run the ball. If they don't run the ball and just turn these guys loose in waves like Isaiah just said, it's over. It's over. Young Bakhtiari, older Bakhtiari, hey, that's the Sam Williams, eat them up all day, bro. Eat them up all day.
Sam Williams, the second round?
Yes, eat them up all day. He's an older gentleman.
Who are some of the guys outside of Micah Parsons, DeMarcus Lawrence, and Sam Williams that you expect to step up out of that?
Dante Fowler.
Okay.
I mean, Dante Fowler is used to being a starter. So now this guy's coming off on a pitch count. He's a third and long passing guy. He is hungry and he's trying to make a mark because he's playing for this year to get more next year.
I'm looking at the interior defensive line. I think these guys need to have an impact game. I think that the only way that Green Bay can have a big impact in this game today is if they are able to run the ball. Aaron Jones, obviously, with Big Dillon, A.J. Dillon back there. If these guys can establish a running game, Aaron Rodgers can do exactly what he wants to do. So Big Bo, Bash, all these guys on the inside, you guys have to do a heck of a job. And then Big Jonathan Hankins. Come in here and do what they brought you in to do, big fella.
He's done a great job of that through at least the one game that he's played with the Cowboys, and he came in to stop the run. This is one of those opportunities. Flip it to the other side for Green Bay. Their pass rush, much unlike Dallas's, looks thin because they don't have Rashawn Gary anymore. He led the team with 6.5 sacks. So where do they get the pressure from? Is it Preston Smith? Is it Ignagbare? Is it Kenny Clark? I mean, there are multiple guys there, but are they really still going to provide any type of challenge for this Cowboys front five?
You know what? I think Preston Smith, he's underrated with me. They brought him in a few years ago. He had 10 sack season. This guy's ready to prove who he is, and they need for him to step up. Kenny, he's okay, but it's got to come from Preston Clark.
You know what, Kyle, to answer your question, they don't bring pressure. They're not going to be able to initiate any pressure, not with these guys up front. The only way they're going to be able to get any kind of form of pressure against Dak Prescott is if they're bringing it from the secondary or if they're walking linebackers outside. The thing is, most of those guys you just saw on your screen there, those guys are mostly two-gap guys. Think about them in the same light as a Jonathan Hankins. You're not really expecting them to get any kind of vertical pressure. You're more so expecting them to get two hands on guys, cover up some space, and then let those stand-up ends that are in bicycle stances to try to create some pressure. I don't see it happening unless they try to blitz it, and we know Dak Prescott does very well against the blitz.
He has thrived under pressure throughout his career. This season, Dak Prescott holds a 126.4 passer rating against the blitz. Where does that rank in the NFL? Number 1. He's been the best against the blitz throughout his games so far here in the 2022 season. Now, how much does Dak Prescott have to outduel Aaron Rodgers, though? Because there is going to be that back and forth. Aaron Rodgers hasn't looked like Aaron Rodgers, but how does he have to compare? Because they've gone at it before.
I don't want him to outduel Aaron Rodgers. The thing is, we want to force Aaron Rodgers into abandoning the run game because the Dallas Cowboys have gotten up on them early and then force him to throw the ball 40-plus times. That is the recipe for success for the Dallas Cowboys. If you have a Dak Prescott throwing the ball any more than 30 times in this game, we're probably not doing what you want to do, which means you probably don't have an effective running game. So I do not want to see this thing turn into a duel. I want to see Dak Prescott doing what he does best, and that's playing off of play action.
Dak, when he's at his best, he's an instinctive player. You know, whether it's running, whether it's the short game, whether even when he get fortunate enough to get it long. Just Dak be Dak. You know, I want that rookie Dak back, that guy you should see run the ball a little bit more. As long as he do that right there, don't worry about Aaron. That's a different dude. I promise you.
Play within yourself if you're a Dak Prescott. That's the message from Nate Newton and Isaiah Stanback. The Packers may be 3-6 And Aaron Rodgers may be coming off of a 3-interception game, but he's still a future Hall of Famer and one of the best to ever do it from the quarterback position. And with more on that, we go to the 5th member of our crew, Haley Sutton.
The return to Green Bay marks head coach Mike McCarthy's first time to see his former quarterback, Aaron Rodgers. The two had a complicated relationship, but it was never disrespectful, both saying it always ended with a hug and an I love you. But come kickoff, the question remains, will those same sentiments be echoed after the game?
I mean, you're talking about a man that's, one of the premier professional athletes of his generation.
Aaron Rodgers is a future Hall of Famer.
I have nothing but, love and gratitude for him. He made me a much better coach. He's still playing at extremely high level. Just the fundamentals and just the way he plays. It's, he deserves all the accolades that he receives.
He's been dominating behind center for Green Bay, never quite feeling the pressure of filling the shoes of his predecessor.
I've always watched this game for as long as I can remember, and it seems like he's, I guess when Brett left Green Bay and they said they had their young guy was a stud, were my first memories.
He's the dragon the Dallas Cowboys have yet to slay. The Packers lead the all-time series 16-13, having won 6 of the last 7 meetings. Aaron Rodgers, 7-2 as a starter against America's team.
He's a guy that you want to play against. He's a idol and a figure in this league that you look up to. He's a hell of a player. I mean, no one can take that from him. So me getting to go against him, maybe sack him, might just be a mental note for me. Not too much more than that, though.
It's a challenge this year's team is ready to face. A team that looks different, feels confident.
The culture, the brotherhood that we've honestly established and built on from last year, we're continuing to grow, and we're much better than we were at this time last year, put it like that.
It's a team full of guys ready to change the narrative, ready to write their own chapter in this storied rivalry, and ready to go to war for their head coach.
We know what our coach means to us. We know how long he was up there. We know how special this, I guess you can say, going back is going to be for him. But more importantly, it's about this team, what we've got building, where we're going, and getting this win.
I love this locker room. I've been saying this for 2 years now. I think this is something we've been building on throughout my time here. So I think it's just more of a reflection of how we feel for one another.
With all the outside noise, the nostalgia of 13 seasons past, and a revved-up Dallas squad playing their best ball of the season, a victory in the frozen tundra is on the forefront of everyone's mind ahead of kickoff.
I really want to win the game. Is that enough?
And a win on Sunday would also move the Cowboys to 7-2. So a lot on the line come kickoff. We will see how it all unfolds in just a little bit. I'm Haley Sutton. I'll send it back to you guys over at the desk.
Aaron Rodgers is like a bad case of the hiccups. Just whenever you think he's gone, he's maybe starting to fade away. That's not necessarily the case, especially against the Dallas Cowboys. Look at those numbers in 8 regular season games. 11 touchdowns, 1 interception. If you want to throw the playoffs into it as well, 15 touchdowns and just 2 interceptions against the Cowboys. So it hasn't looked great.
You know who that 1 interception was, right?
Who was it?
Oh, you already know.
Oh, it was Mr. Barry Church. How about that? What year was that? What
that was
year?
2016. Man.
You got him in that one?
Without a doubt.
Is that the best player you've ever picked off?
Yeah, between him and Breeze, so I would go with Rodgers. I would have to say.
Okay, because you never got Tom Brady, right?
Never got Brady.
Never got a chance. Oh, he was in the AFC when you were playing, so you didn't see him every year.
He got us in the AFC Championship, but that's another story for another day.
Did you keep the ball at least, or no?
Yeah, yes, I did. It's my man cave, without a doubt.
It's in a big old case. Back here with Barry Church, Isaiah Stanback, and like I just said, he is still Aaron Rodgers. How do you have to be careful, and how do you have success against him if you're the Cowboys to avoid that Rodgers repeat?
Well, it's going to be tough because Aaron Rodgers, like you said, he's been in this league forever. All right, he's played in this league since 1975, so he's seen every single defense there is. So it's going to be hard to disguise the coverages against this man and try to trick him into something. What I think it comes down to is this defensive line. They have got to eat and make this guy uncomfortable out there. With Aaron Rodgers being uncomfortable, he has a chance to throw you a couple interceptions. You might get some tip balls. You might get some overthrows. But if you let him be comfortable back there, this guy is still a bad man. He could do damage to your defense.
Stay in the hip pocket of his receivers. If you stay in the hip pocket of those receivers and don't allow them to get off the ball, you affect both aspects of the game. You take away their running game because you're always going to have guys being able to play closer to the line of scrimmage, and you take away their RPO, okay, the pass option off of the RPO, because these guys like to have that off of every run play. So if you stay in these guys' hip pocket and cause some disruption at the line of scrimmage, they're already having communication issues. You go ahead and couple that with an inability to get off the line of scrimmage.
We're going to talk about those wide receivers and kind of the trouble that they've been having on that offense here in just a couple moments. But first, let's hear from Aaron Rodgers earlier in the week, speaking on the emotion that runs high, of course, with his former head coach returning to Green Bay, and then also the matchup he's got one-on-one with Micah Parsons.
Mike shed a few tears this week in his press conference. Is that different than the old Mike that you knew? Would he have ever done that, or did he get emotional ever when he was around here?
Oh, he definitely did. Yeah, Mike's Pittsburgh toughness and grit on the outside, and big soft teddy bear on the inside, and I think that's a great combination to have. But there were definitely some tears over the years, both in team settings and also some one-on-one settings. Him and I definitely shed some tears over the years together in conversations. Usually happy tears, I would say. But yeah, Mike's a big-hearted guy, and I'd like to see him let the emotions come out.
How many defensive players in the league can do what Parsons does in terms of from a couple different spots and still be as effective at each one?
I don't know if there's anybody. I think Dan does a great job of using him. They have a lot of different personnel packages. He's on the line of scrimmage in some of them. He's off the ball, drops some coverage. But he's got a lot of things that you just can't coach. I mean, you can emphasize, but the effort that he plays with is incredible. And he's made some incredible effort plays where he's way out of the play. There's a play against the Lions. He's way out of the play on the backside, and he runs the guy down and stops him on the one. And the next play, they get a fumble and kind of turn that game around where they could have been behind after that play, and instead they're getting the ball there, and it's a whole different ball game because he never gave up on the play and tackled the guy inside the 1 yard line. And there's been multiple high effort plays by him. I remember watching a little bit of the Hard Knocks that they had, and I liked his disposition. I liked how coachable that he was, and you knew he was going to be a player just by the way they were talking about him and the stuff you saw in practice. But he's definitely a one of one in this league. I don't know if there's anybody that's doing as many things as they're asking him to do.
Micah Parsons, one of one. He's going to try and get after Aaron Rodgers, and so will this secondary because it's a different bunch of receivers without Davante Adams in the fold. You look at Allen Lazard, Robert Tonyan, Sammy Watkins, Christian Watson. It is a young yet inexperienced group of receivers that they're having to try and throw the football to. So does Dallas have the upper hand with the secondary today?
Without a doubt. I think this secondary can handle this group of wide receivers. When you look at him, Allen Lazard, I played with him down in Jacksonville. Good big body receiver, but he's not going to run past anyone. And then you look at the young rookie Watson out there. He has the speed to run by you, but he's inconsistent when you talk about catching the football. And then Sammy Watkins. If this was 5 or 6 years ago, I would say, man, we got our hands full. But this guy's been in and out of the lineup with injuries. He doesn't have that connection with Aaron Rodgers just yet. So overall, as a whole, I think this secondary should be able to handle these Green Bay wide receivers.
This secondary would have the advantage if they were on the field. If they were not on the field, the secondary would have the advantage because these guys, if they were playing routes on air with just Aaron Rodgers, they were still going to have some incomplete passes. These guys are that far off right now in terms of being on the same page. They're nowhere in the stratosphere. If you add the defensive backs element into that now, these guys are going to cause so much disruption, so much confusion, so much frustration for these receivers that are seemingly just trying to understand the proper concepts and the proper routes and the proper depth. If these guys can go out there and be disruptive, again, like I said earlier, it's going to cause a heck of a long day for Aaron Rodgers.
Just a reminder, no Jordan Lewis. He was injured in that game against the Chicago Bears. So it's expected that Deron Bland, the rookie out of Fresno State, will carry the majority of that workload. Isaiah, you look excited about it. What do you expect out of Deron Bland?
DB. I like it. DB to DB. Deron Bland had one of the best camps of anybody in this organization. And then he followed that up with a great preseason. And then obviously when he had his opportunity to step into the fold in the regular season, he showed right up and made an interception. So I'm looking forward to this man coming out there and competing. You add him in there with the rest of the guys that are running around, flying around, hitting guys left and right. The front seven that is defensive up front, these guys are going to have a good day.
Yeah, without a doubt, this guy is already kind of like a savvy vet out there when you look at it. I mean, he does all the characteristics, and he has all the characteristics that you look for in a nickel back. He can blitz, he can tackle with the run, and he can cover as well. So, Deron Bland, the sky's the limit. Hopefully you keep capitalizing on your opportunities.
I'm not going to lie to you guys. This is making me feel a little bit better because initially I thought we were doomed in the fact that the only Cowboys Cowboy to pick off Aaron Rodgers is sitting here, and he's not in Green Bay. So I felt worried early on, but you guys made me feel a lot better about the situation. Jaron Kearse certainly knows the situation at hand as well. Here's what he had to say earlier in the week on the matchup they have with Aaron Rodgers.
We have to be very sound. A-Rod is one of the best quarterbacks to ever play this game. He does a lot of things well. He can manipulate the defense. He can rip it from the pocket if you keep him in the pocket, or if you want to flush him out of the pocket. He's good outside the pocket, making throws on the run, and just being in sync with those guys at receiver, where they're able to make those extended plays when he gets outside the pocket. I definitely feel that we have to be sound in our technique and in our scheme, and that'll take care of everything.
Do you enjoy matching wits with a guy who's seen so much over his years?
Yeah, I definitely do. As being a competitor, myself and as a lot of the guys on the defense, you want to go up against these guys, and you want to win these types of games. It gives you a huge momentum boost and confidence boost to where you go out there and you beat a guy like Aaron Rodgers. The sky's the limit.
There are a lot of fans locally that have respect for the Packers. Going back to Ice Bowl days, there's some huge historic games between Cowboys and Packers over the years. Can you explain to them that we'll never have a chance to go to Lambeau, what it's like there?
It's always tough. It's always tough in Lambeau. Being that the guys that they've had, under center. You went from Favre and then you went to A-Rod. Those guys always give you a chance. But this one for us, thinking back to the rivalry, we're not really thinking much into that. We want to get this one for our head coach, being that he was there for some years. He won a championship there, and just going out there and taking care of business for him would be that's enough motivation for us to go out there and do.
So Jaron Kearse, very confident, but also knowing what challenge lies ahead for this Cowboys secondary. And from one talented defensive back to another, they've got a matchup on the other side with Jair Alexander, one of the best in the entire game right now. 3 interceptions this season. He's already had the 9 PBUs. He has certainly done it all. And, of course, he should be shadowing C.D. Lamb for the majority of this football game. Barry, when you look at this matchup, how does C.D. match up with Alexander?
Look, this is going to be a tough matchup for C.D. Lamb because Jair Alexander, man, he's one of the most physical corners there is in the National Football League. He loves to get in your face, press coverage, get those hands on you, and disrupt that timing between the quarterback and the wide receiver. So if they do decide to have Jair shadow C.D. Lamb throughout the entire afternoon, it's going to be a heck of a dogfight.
I don't disagree with you. Jair Alexander is like the one fly that's in your house and you just can't get rid of it. You just keep swatting at it. He just keeps avoiding you. He's just going to be there the entire time. This guy is an absolute pest. He, like you already mentioned, Barry, this dude likes to get up in your face at the line of scrimmage. He's going to cause a lot of disruption there for C.D. Lamb. C.D. Lamb's emotional intelligence is going to be tested today. This is the biggest matchup that he's had in that regard since the Los Angeles Rams game against Jalen Ramsey, in which he went 5 for 50 on 8 targets. So will he have a better day today? We're going to have to wait and see.
Lots of talk this week about the Dallas wide receiving room, and not for a good reason. It's been a lot of talk about trying to add potential talent. Here's the guys that are in-house at the moment: C.D. Lamb, Michael Gallup, Noah Brown. But there is some talent on the streets at the moment with a guy like Odell Beckham Jr. still available as a free agent. So how much pressure is on these 3 guys this week to try and get the job done, Barry, if they don't want to go out and maybe try and find some talent elsewhere?
Look, I believe there's some pressure on these wide receivers right now to step up and play to a high level. But what's keeping that pressure at bay is that this offense is sticking with the formula. They're using that ground game to get these W's out there. But eventually, there's going to be teams that are going to look at this tape and say, let's stack this box. Let's see what these wide receivers can do on the outside. And that's when that pressure we talk about is going to get to a boiling point.
Barry just hit it on the head. As long as Dallas Cowboys have their game plan number 1, which is run the ball and run play action off of that, they're going to be in a perfect situation. However, if Dak Prescott is forced in a position where he has to drop back and throw the ball 40-plus times, and we have to start testing out our rookie left tackle, and we have to start testing out this tight end committee, all of a sudden now you're going to start saying, okay, Dak, can you sit here and deliver the block accurately? And then receivers, can you find space? Can you create space between you and the defenders and make a contested catches?
Because it's not going to be easy, especially going up against guys like Alexander. You've got to have consistent success. Who out of that trio, Brown, Gallup, Lamb, has the best shot to have some consistent success?
I'm going to go ahead and say Gallup. I know you may think CD, you may think Brown, but I'm looking at CD being covered against Jair Alexander, and that's going to be a dogfight. So I feel like Gallup has got to take advantage of their corner number 2, who I believe will be Eric Stokes out there. If he's able to take advantage of that, this offense should be just fine.
I'm going to go with Noah Brown.
Okay.
Simply because of the fact, one thing we know about Noah Brown is he's going to make the contested catch. CD Lamb is going to have one of the best cornerbacks in this league. He's going to be staying in his hip pocket, and really we're still waiting to see if he can step into that number 1 fold. You look at a Michael Gallup. Michael Gallup is still trying to get his legs back underneath them. But Noah Brown, what has he shown you this year? That he can make plays. We know that he's a Cooper Rush guy. We just need Dak to give him a little bit of trust and give him a little bit of love, and let's see what he can do today.
Of course, CD Lamb, good to go. Michael Gallup still working his way back from injury. Still feels like he's not back up to speed. Noah Brown in his first game back. He missed that game against Chicago, but a bye week does him very well. During that bye week, I mentioned the conversation around Odell Beckham Jr. We're going to talk about it because they're talking about it. Dak, Zeke, and CeeDee Lamb all having words earlier in the week on what it would mean to have Odell Beckham Jr. in the fold.
To add a talent like that and knowing Odell, knowing his resume, it's exciting. But understand it's also a business, and there's, I'm sure, 31 other teams that would like to add him as well.
Oh, that's my boy. I'm a fan of Odell for sure. I feel like here, why wouldn't you want to add, more firepower to this offense?
That's something we've talked about, here and there. We know the type of player Odell is. The type, how explosive he can be, and what he can be for this offense. So, it'd be great to get him down here in Dallas. Just another weapon in our little repertoire. So, hopefully we get OBJ to Dallas.
You got to play with him in the Pro Bowl. What was that like?
I don't know if Pro Bowl really count.
Just being around him, his personality, and do you think that he would make a lot of sense in this locker room?
No, yeah. I'm friends with OBJ. He definitely will fit in this locker room. I don't know if there would be guys that wouldn't fit in this locker room. We got a good group of guys, but he definitely will fit in. He's a competitor. He plays hard and obviously very talented. And we want him. We want OBJ.
So there you have it from the words of the Cowboys themselves. Now, I've got a 2-part question for you guys. 1, do the Cowboys need OBJ? And 2, if they do indeed go and sign a guy like Odell Beckham Jr., how much could he help this football team?
Well, to answer your first question, I don't think they need to sign Odell Beckham. I don't think it's a huge need. We're thinking about the guy maybe back in 14 and 17 that was making them spectacular catches. I'm not so sure he's the same guy after 2 ACL injuries, so I'm not sure they need to have Odell out there.
I'm going to disagree with you, Barry. Okay. I'm going to say that they need the talent of an individual as of Odell Beckham. Do they need Odell Beckham? I can't sit up here and say that they need him because I think he would cause more issues than he would solve problems. James Washington, I need to see you play. I need to see what you can do. If James Washington can't be there, then we absolutely need Odell Beckham.
You heard church service. No.
There it is.
Bottom line, man. You can't bring this dude in here, man, and don't know his physical state, man. Just because a doctor says yes, what about the first double move? What about the ends and breaks that they have to make? No, sir.
We're talking about Michael Gallup in his 5th game back from 1 ACL tear, and he's in his mid-20s. He's had a little bit of an injury there, but then you've got Odell Beckham Jr., who's in his 30s, and he's got 2. You're looking at me like I'm crazy. Is it different?
It's definitely different. Listen, I agree with you guys in regards to bringing him into this locker room. But when it comes to the physical aspect of things, I don't think you could put Odell Beckham in the same category as any other human being in this world. Odell Beckham was created. He wasn't born. Some of these other guys in this league don't have the same capabilities to bounce back. He showed you what he did last year off of ACL. Everybody said the same exact thing. All he did was come back, make plays, and win a ring.
He's only going to be asked to be a number 2 or 3, right? He wouldn't be coming into the fold and be the number 1 guy. Does that help change your mind maybe in trying to add some back-end talent, even though he is a front-end personality?
No. I still feel like we're thinking about this guy like he's 16 or 17. Year 2, this guy, no, there's no way. I don't think he comes in here and he can be that number 2. I just don't believe so. I think we're good with what we have right now. Give those guys that we have in there a chance. Brown, Gallup, CD. I know they haven't gotten crazy separation, but you're winning with a formula of ground game. Why bring another wide receiver in here when you're running the football as good as you're running it?
Ooh, good segue, Barry Church, because there is one thing that the Cowboys can't rely on, and that is the 1-2 punch of Tony Pollard and Ezekiel Elliott. Unfortunately, no Ezekiel Elliott in that 1-2 punch. It's just a one punch with Tony Pollard this week, and he showed last time out that he could certainly carry a big-time load. He did so with 14 carries, 137 yards, 3 rushing touchdowns, something that Zeke has never done throughout his career, is have 3 rushing touchdowns in a single game. It's going to be the Tony Pollard show again. Can he carry that same sort of workload for a second straight game?
Yeah, I think if they keep that workload, like we said, between 14 and 18 carries, I think you're going to get the best of Tony Pollard. You give it to him in a variety of different ways, whether it's traditional handoff, throwing him a little screen here and there, dumping a pass off to him. I think that's when you get your best Tony Pollard, when you keep it between that 14 and 18. Anything over that, I think he's starting to wear down.
I think Tony Pollard is going to have the best game of his career today. Wow. Seemingly just because of the fact these guys run a 5-man front majority of the time. 3 primary defensive linemen and 2 stand-up defensive ends. When those defensive ends decide to go upfield and have that containment with those wide nines, all of a sudden they have big seams right there inside the gaps, and there's only one linebacker or one safety coming down trying to add support. TP wins whenever he has a one-on-one matchup. There's going to be plenty of those today.
The offensive line has been playing excellent. You got a point of attack where he got that. He's got a middle cut, and he's got a backdoor cut, which every back can't get into. So Tony going to be all right. And Malik Davis, just give us 5 or 10. Dak, give us 1 or 2. That thing going to be all right. Yeah.
Spread the love around just a little bit. Just a sprinkle is all you need in order to try and supplement the production of Tony Pollard. Tony Pollard has earned the respect and earned the trust of this Cowboys coaching staff, but the coaching staff had already had that trust in Tony Pollard. Here's what he had to say on how Mike McCarthy has really run things over the last few years.
I feel like he's done a great job, since he's come to the organization, getting things going in the right direction, having 2 good seasons, and not including this one, but I feel like he's done a great job, just showing that he's a great coach in this league, that he can turn things around.
What can you say about the way he's earned the respect of this franchise over those years, especially this year, so much talk with the resilience theme and all that?
It's big, especially coming from, Green Bay, a franchise like that, and then coming to Dallas, it's like a home environment. So just having him, having to get adjusted to a new way of doing things, it's completely different weather, everything is pretty much different night and day. So just him getting adjusted.
What do you feel led to the success you guys had on inside zone in the previous game?
You said what?
Inside zone. Why do you think you guys were so successful in that concept last
game? Like I said earlier, just being physical, knowing that we have to go out there and compete, run the ball at times when they know we'll run it, and and still come out, with a successful play. So just being physical and just showing that we can go out there and compete with anybody.
The confidence is certainly there for Tony Pollard and company, and for good reason, because that 1-2 punch for the Cowboys has worked all season long. Green Bay, though, has a 1-2 punch of their own. This time around, it's Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon. Aaron Jones, a familiar foe to the Cowboys, played his collegiate ball at UTEP. He had 4 rushing touchdowns in one game against the Cowboys back in 2019. So who's more of a challenge? You've got Aaron Jones as that downhill, side-to-side, east-to-west runner that likes to find a hole and then punch through it. And then speaking of punching, that's just what A.J. Dillon does. He's just a physical bowling ball. Which one's a tougher challenge for this run defense?
I wouldn't want to hit either one of these guys, but I'm going to go with Aaron Jones. He can go ahead and hurt you in a multitude of ways. You talked about his downhill ability, slashing, has that home run effect similar to Tony Pollard, and he can hurt you in the passing game. This guy got 32 receptions, 210 yards, and 3 touchdowns. So he can hurt your defense in a multitude of ways. They have to know where number 33 is at all times.
You're absolutely correct. And I think every team in the league is going to go ahead and pick Mr. Aaron Jones, because he is just that guy. He's going to kill you out the backfield in the passing game. He's going to kill you on the running game, and he's going to make guys miss. However, I'm going to go with Mr. A.J. Dillon, because if there's one thing that this defense has struggled with, it's been the ability to actually tackle one-on-one, mano-y-mano. And when you got a 6-foot, 247-pound grown man we call Quadzilla coming downhill, that's not the man you want to hit, just like Mr. DCBC just said.
Why are you just trying to go get the shirt? This A.J. Jones, bottom line, man. This dude dangerous. He can do it all. He can catch, he can run, he can slash, he can run for power, and he can go 60 yards. Come on.
Let him know. Let him know.
Nate, you and I can just go to the side, get out of here, because we'll just let Nate and Isaiah go back and forth with it as well. But it is interesting because there are different skill sets for both of those guys. Those guys can certainly play in their own skill set. 1v1, you can see the same thing with Tony Pollard and what he did last week, and of course Ezekiel Elliott unavailable for the Cowboys this afternoon. Now, it's a much different team that Aaron Jones scored 4 touchdowns against in 2019 with this Cowboys unit. It's also a much different team than they were a year ago as well. What's the biggest difference, though they are 6-2, much like the Cowboys were at this point last year? What's the biggest difference between the 2021 team and the 22 team so far?
I'm going to have to go defensively. I'm going to have to go defense. I know last year in 21, they led the league in takeaways, and they were getting the ball all over the place. But when you look at this defense now, they are a complete unit. They can get after the pass rush. They can cover on the back end. There's no mental errors. You don't see guys running scot-free down the football field. You don't see any explosive plays out there. They make offenses work to get down the football field. And the way they can get after the pass rusher, it's bar none right now. So to me, the biggest difference has got to be defense.
I'm not going to go against you this time, Barry. Reason being is Dan Quinn has a year underneath his belt, and he also has a year underneath his belt talking to the front office and getting the guys that he wants in the game. Now his dude has a plethora of weapons, a ton of assets that he can utilize. And defensively, you're right. They're not taking the ball away like they were last year, but taking the ball away sometimes has a little bit of luck that goes with it. Creating pressure and disruption in the backfield, that's straight skill, and that's exactly what this defense is doing. Offensively, they've taken a big step backwards, and they need to take a big leap forward because last year they led the league.
I just got to go with Kellen Moore. I mean, I eat this dude up every chance I get. Yes, he's been great. He's been coachable by his head coach and his boss, Coach McCarthy. He's did a great job of settling his team down and understanding when things are not going right, how he go back to the run game, how he get Tony Pollard in the right position to make plays. I'm loving Kellen Moore right now. It's the big difference.
You're seeing that growth with the offensive coordinator in Kellen Moore. You can see it. However, the Cowboys offense went from the top in the league to middle of the road, and then the Cowboys defense went from middle of the road to top of the league. So that's kind of the biggest difference so far. It still ends up in 6-2. You're still a good football team at this point. You got to take care of business this week in order to try and keep pace in the NFC East because those Philadelphia Eagles still undefeated at the moment. Let's go back out to Lambeau Field where Nick Eatman is now on the sidelines with Cowboys COO Stephen Jones.
All right, thank you, Kyle. And I'm here with Stephen Jones, Cowboys Chief Operating Officer here at Lambeau Field. And it's not warm, and I don't think it's supposed to be warm if you're here on the sidelines, right?
Well, it wouldn't seem right.
It wouldn't seem right.
If it wasn't really frigid. But I tell you what, I'm looking around out here, and one of the things that's great to see is our fans. They've really showed up here today, and I think we're going to have quite a bit of Cowboy fans in the house today, which we'll certainly always need. But what a great place to play the game. I mean, it's all about the history of the game when you walk in Lambeau Field, and certainly a great day for Mike coming back home, and I know our players will be ready to go to work for him. But, boy, do we have a great player we're playing against today, not to mention his team, and Aaron Rodgers backed into a corner, and we're going to have our hands full.
That's what I was about to ask you about Aaron Rodgers. There's a rumor going around that he's lost it. He's not playing as well, and they aren't playing as well. But like you said, still very capable, and we've seen it firsthand.
Rumors not from me. I've seen it firsthand too many times, and he's put the end to a couple of our seasons, and nothing but tremendous respect for the way he plays, what he's about. And as I said, we'll have our hands full here today. I know they're wanting to get back on track today, and hopefully, and I know we will come out and play our game, play with great tempo, and have a great game.
No Zeke today. Tony Pollard going to get most of the carries. How much more confident are you about him being able to do that based off what you saw in the last game against Chicago?
Well, I wouldn't say we didn't think that he couldn't do it before Chicago, but obviously you see it, and probably the most carries he's had, since he's been in the NFL. But no doubt that he could do it, and certainly did do it, and I think he'll do the same thing here today. He'll play at a high level, certainly get some support from Malik and, the rest of the offense, but looking forward to seeing him roll today.
How about on the defensive side? Anything that you're looking forward to seeing, or any player, any position group?
I think the big thing is, certainly just doing anything and everything you can to contain Aaron Rodgers. He's certainly got his play action. He's the master at it, extending plays. And then, of course, they got a very sound running game. And, a lot of people think that might be a little bit of a challenge for us, but we're ready for it. I know Dan will have his troops ready and ready for a big game.
All right, before I let you go, I was walking down that sideline. They brought back memories. Just one question. Did Dez catch it?
I think he caught it, and by today's rules, Des caught it. So.
And you're on the competition committee, so you're one of the reasons of that rule being still kind of a sore subject for Cowboy fans. We'll see if they can right that wrong today. All right, Kyle, we'll throw it back to you.
Thank you very much, Nick and Steven. Even saw a little Mickey Spagnola in the back
Yeah.
rolling around on the sidelines at Lambeau Field, wrapping things up on Cowboys pregame live here from the Star in Frisco. Barry Church, Isaiah Stanback, Nate Newton. The Cowboys at 6-2. The Packers are at 3-6. Barry, keys to the game. How do the Cowboys get win number 7?
I think it's going to be defensively, and we got to make sure Aaron Rodgers is uncomfortable out there. If he's comfortable out there, it's going to be a long afternoon for the secondary. Even though they don't have those extreme weapons on the outside, defensive line, get after Mr. Rodgers out there.
Make Aaron Rodgers throw the ball for more than 40 times in this game. If he has to drop back 40 times, put the ball up in the air, this defensive front has opportunity to get back there, and there's always an opportunity for turnovers.
Score first and play great defense, because if they can't run, and I hate to say this, Aaron got to throw, and his wide receivers are not on time.
Do you think that the Packers are going to rely on the air game or the ground game? It's cold. The ground game certainly benefits from that. And especially with the Dallas defense struggling at times to stop the run, do you think it'll be an even split back and forth, or are they going to have Aaron Rodgers throw the football?
If the Cowboys are going to win this game, they're going to have to shut down that run game. They're going to have to shut down Jones and Dillon out there and force Aaron Rodgers to throw the football. If they get to going with that 1-2 punch, it might be a long afternoon for the Cowboys.
This is the only time in history you have ever wanted to see Aaron Rodgers throw the ball. This is the one time that you want to see him actually put the ball in the air. Any other time, you're like, kill the clock, run the ball. But this time, put it in his hands and let's see what he does with it.
Let's come on back with a victory, man. These guys been preaching and talking all day, and they've done a hell of a job.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it. And here's one thing you always have to remember with the Cowboys and the Packers. Take the script of whatever's going to happen and throw that thing out. Because there's nothing predictable about the Cowboys and the Packers. That's going to do it for us here on Cowboys Pregame Live. For Barry Church, Isaiah Stanback, Nate Newton, Haley Sutton, Nick Eatman, and our entire crew, I'm Kyle Yeoman saying so long. 3:25 kickoff on Fox. Cowboys, Packers coming up.